Good morning and welcome to Thomas College. My name is Tom. We are four associates with a long history of working together as a team and also independently. We provide free education, re-education to adults in personal and financial distress. We're based in Palm Springs, California. In 2019, we have been stepping up our game because what we do works. And the path we're on has predictably worked. We didn't invent it, but people can and do change. And we teach the language that creates that new, better life, that new world that a lot of people are seeking and willing to do no matter what. There's nothing new here. The first jolt that starts the process is that horrifying moment. A moment of truth, a very common experience. The paranoid schizophrenic that has been living in the dirt, talking to trees and car trunks, and he says, "Dad, I want my life back." That's a horrifying moment of truth. That's a true story. Imagine if that was your young son or daughter and you weren't there to hear it. Take that moment of truth across the world of the underemployed, the single parents with multiple jobs, away from their families, working long hours, making incomes that qualify for food stamps. It's a fairly common story. And the shrinking middle class that cling to their home but they can't buy food. There's something that's just not right. And it's correctable. Life at the minimum. Basic human needs. Something to do. Someone to love. And something to hope for. Do we really have to endure the familiar? The answer is in human spirit, spirituality. The purpose of spirituality is to change. How does human behavior get changed and corrected? Behavioral science has been studied for thousands of years. I guess people didn't have much else to do in the old days, but it wasn't easy living. Life at the bottom, of the homeless, has to be a version of hell on earth. Strangely, we're led by a predictable path of the homeless who change their lives. It's a hidden flow out of that hell on earth, a silent flow of extreme stories, a moment of truth and desperation, then accessing the mass of free programs for food, clothing, shelter, and employment. There's no single program that teaches this sequence, but it actually happens. The homeless are getting out of being homeless. They do it themselves. There's no applause. This is a hard way to make a living. This guy is carrying all of his stuff, probably dragging his stuff as best he can to get from one place to the other. Maybe he's got his cans in there to trade in. That's not an easy way to make a living. I didn't put these pictures in here to get sympathy, but it's women and children. I've never seen so much of that in the current world where there's so many families out on the street and their animals and all the rest of it. It's a tragedy. It's just simply the numbers. The numbers are getting so big. We use thinking maps. They come in all different forms. This one uses a fish as a visual, so you know where it is. If you can visualize what it is and what your priorities are, you don't have to even look at it later. You've already identified it's a fish, it's in the upper left-hand corner, that kind of thing. It's just tricks, memory tricks, visualization tricks. Thinking maps are taught in grade school, and they have multiple forms. It's to suit our intentions, so you can do all kinds of different forms of the same thing. What is it that we want to do? Thoughts become habits, habits become reality. There's an ancient version of a story called Orpheus Descending, and the gates of hell are wide open. The only rule is don't look back. Great advice when you're looking to pull yourself out from the bottom. So we've talked about sequential thinking, really, our intentions, and organizing the sequence of those intentions. Sequential thinking is probably the hardest task the human mind does. How do you plan ahead? So our intentions are forming. They're good, theoretically. And human behavior does need escapes. We look to escape to what we're passionate about. That's not easy to define. Passion can be defined as an art, the widest version of what art is, what you love to do, that takes your mind down to zero. How does someone discover what they're passionate about? Look at the creative process in all of us that never goes away. Everyone is passionate about something, and it can be defined as an art in the broadest sense of the word. Raise what you do to the level of art. Imagine working at something you love, a job that you love. We directly address this through an associate who has lived this throughout his life. He keeps going back to his art. The creative process has a start and an end. In the middle is that jumble of lines that is chaos. The idea is to tap into that chaos, this jumble of ideas and confusion and overwhelmed, into that mess and find the answer buried in there. There's a dot in there that is what we're looking for. We seek to align with passion, understand it, and use it, and we can turn it on and turn it off. Focusing on your passion and elevating it, it can be done through a process called meditation. It's just listening. The Dalai Lama says, throwing it out because it sort of fits in this area, and actually it's true for me, that sleep is the best meditation because you take your mind down to zero, theoretically. You dream and you do whatever, but you wake up refreshed. I think it was Edison that took all the naps, and he didn't want to sleep because he had so many things going on in his mind. But he took himself down to zero and got up and started over again. Behavioral science and meditation, it's a visual. Meditation starts in your mind, and you take all of your thoughts, all positive and negative thoughts, everything that's in there, a start process. You take all of those thoughts down to the zero. You're not thinking anymore. You stop. At that unified field, which is the zero field, the uncorrupted child, you release all of that and keep only the good. Consciously keep only the good. On a different note, but by way of general information, we have a third associate that works with just overview, and a fourth associate that has a mass of commercial ideas. His passion is a clean environment, all things green. It has a universal appeal, and the technology is low cost and local. And he's good with money. Nice little combination of four people. Let's start at the bottom. Community is the second instinct, that social tribal bond. In and through community is the salvation of the world. That's from the top. That's saving the world, the global. I love the idea, but that's just not going to happen right now. Let's start from zero. Take it right down to, what do we do tomorrow? What's the next indicated right thing? We work with people from all walks of life, overwhelmed by their current reality. So what's the downside? It's human denial and resistance to change. Effectively saying, I will not learn, you cannot teach me. Self-propelled is the enemy. Community is, in fact, the solution. Community is the second instinct. It is the salvation of the world, and it can become a habit, a very, very powerful habit. So not everybody's ready to change at the moment we see them. We have to walk away from that and welcome them back when they become ready. What's different now? The mass of people that are on the edge of poverty is getting huge. So we need to look at helping more people, and we are on that path. Finally, this is a starter document that we use, and it has way too much information on as far as this video is concerned. So let's go right to the punchline, the 7 deadly sins. This is a way of looking at who you are. Envy, greed, gluttony, pride, anger, lust, sloth. If you use the acrostics on that, these little letters at the front end, it's EGGPALS, EGGPALS, memory trick. They're split up into 3 categories: defects, symptoms, and virtues. We talked about the defect of character that's pride, where I will not learn and you cannot teach me. Pride has a corresponding virtue called humility. It defaults to humility. That's the good. The bad is the pride that says, I won't learn, and the good is this honesty. And people possess that simultaneously. And they bounce back and forth. And the trick is then to live in the truth. The truth is so powerful. So that's pretty much it on this video.